Hi everyone, welcome to the JLC Art Lab with Maura Bela. Today we're going to be learning how to build a model of the famous museum in Jerusalem called the Shrine of the Book. In Hebrew it's called Heichal HaSefer. We're going to be using repurposed items from around the house. Since we can't go out, we have to use what we have at home. So look forward to collecting your supplies: toilet paper tubes, paper plates, the plastic wrapping for the meat packages, and your matzah boxes. Okay, everyone, get your supplies together and let's go. Here we go. 2 paper plates, some toilet paper tubes, and put that together. You made a little top, a pointed top out of a toilet paper tube that I cut up and then just kind of dwindled it down till it was a kind of a cone shape. Now to find the center of the plate, to put that dome on, I'm just going to take a straight edge, find the center, and attach it. Now once you got that staple on, you go and check, make sure your little pusik is there inside to represent the Dead Sea Scrolls, and close it up to that represents the inside of the museum. Okay, now you have that secured. Go on to the next thing. Now we took a matzah box that I opened it up very carefully to make the base of the museum. So once you lay out that base, you're going to start on working on the black wall. I took some black foam trays and put it inside of a clear tray. Now it's time to use paper mache to cover the paper plates. I used a brown paper bag to cut up, and I cut it into strips, but you can use newspaper if that's what you have. I took white drippy glue and mixed it with some water, and I just continued to build the shape on top of the dome to get that point. I really wanted it to look like, as much as possible, as the shape that the architects made in the actual building of the Shrine of the Book. And just after that, took a little tape to hold it together. And now with some more glue and some paper mache, or my paper bag mache, I start covering up the whole top, making sure that I like my shape, and then I'll continue on with my paper mache. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is take some other toilet paper tubes, cut them in half, and put them inside another plate, and those represent the tunnels to get into the museum, because the museum is set 2/3 of the way down into the ground, which gives a representation of the caves of Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. Now you just put those 2 things together, your top and now your bottom, and you can continue covering up the rest of the whole museum, Shrine of the Book, in paper mache. I covered up the dome as best as I could, and then I set it aside to dry. I actually gave an extra layer of some glue afterwards to make sure that it was going to be sticking down really well. Trim the top of that dome. It was a little too high, so I trimmed some of that off. Now the next thing we do is just take some air dry clay. I happen to have some really nice air dry clay at home, and I started spreading it all over my paper mache dome. And that really gave me the feeling of the clay tops, the clay lids of the jars that were found in Qumran that contained the Dead Sea Scrolls. So I had a lot of really good kinesthetic learning and feeling through my hands about the clay and the jars and the style of the museum and what the architects thought about while they were designing it, just by touching the clay and adding it to my project. Okay, we're going to have to let this dry, and we're going to go on to the next step. Just make sure I got my clay in all my right places. Make sure it was completely covered. And then we're going to put that aside to dry. And we're going to start working on the base for the whole project, the platform, where both the Shrine of the Book, the white dome, and the black wall will sit in opposition to each other, representing light and dark. To help that along, I decided to paint the inside of my matzo box, painted white, and I thought that would look really good once I started setting up the rest of the model. I wanted to put a little extra base around the plates to represent the way the building actually looks, so I took some foam pieces cut up from the tray and stapled them on. It was a little tricky, but it added another level of the walls that made me feel like I was really honoring what the architects designed and built for the museum. Okay, so now we're going to start to put more clay on top. Now this time I really put some big pieces of clay and tried to build up the sides of the paper plate. You see where it dips in, it's not the same exactly as the Shrine of the Book is, so I tried to use my clay to build that up and change that shape a little bit so it more resembled the actual building. And I kept working with the clay until I was almost out of clay. No, actually I had plenty of clay. I just wanted to make sure that it looked just right. Took my brush, smoothed it out, and then again put it to dry. While it was drying, I got to work on the next thing, which is the base. So I took some more trays, some foam trays, had a blue styrofoam tray. I used that to represent the water. Took a black piece of paper and wrapped it around the black foam trays to make the wall look nicer. Just in case you didn't have black foam trays, you just can take a piece of black paper and make anything black for the foam. I made a plaque with the name of the museum that I photocopied off the internet. Took another piece of foam and then I just glued that on and had my little plaque. And now, after that dried, I sanded it down to smooth it out. After I finished sanding it down, I took white acrylic paint and I painted the whole dome, making sure that I got my white paint everywhere because it's the main symbol of the spiritual lightness. I did 2 coats, letting it dry in between. It really got a nice white coat of paint on top of my dome. And after that was done, I placed it inside the box that I made for my base. And there you have it. Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed building a model of the Shrine of the Book. And I hope you learned something along the way. Take care. Thanks for joining me.